SABC News, our top story, a big media news involving Mzwanele Manyi buying up the Gupta-owned media houses, and we do hope to chat to him shortly. But first, some other media-related business news. Reports say that some shareholders at global internet and entertainment group Naspers are unhappy with the company's executive remuneration policy. The shareholders, including Allan Gray, are reportedly planning to take on Naspers' chairman, Koos Bekker, on the matter at this week's annual general meeting. Allan Gray portfolio manager Simon Raubenheimer is quoted as saying that they have voted against the policy for the past 2 years, and there's not been any improvement. It's reported that at the heart of the matter is Naspers' ownership in Tencent, quite a significant shareholding there, the source of this year's 43% gain on the stock market, and the single largest contributor to Naspers' profit. Without Tencent in China, Naspers' earnings would have slumped in 2015, and again this year to date, the financial year that ended in March. Despite that, CEO Bob van Dijk, who joined Naspers in 2014, is recorded as having achieved 50 out of a maximum of 50 on group financial results under the company's annual performance-related incentive outcomes. Well, it's a complicated matter. Let's get someone to unpack it. On the line, we're joined by business journalist Anne Crotty from Cape Town. Anne, great to have you with us. What are you hearing first about what could possibly go down this week with shareholders facing management?
I think it will be an embarrassment for Naspers, but I'm not sure that it's going to be anything more than that. It's a very tough board. Well, it's led by very tough Koos Bekker, who doesn't kind of engage too easily with opposition. And he's done so well for investors that up to now that hasn't been a problem. There hasn't been much opposition, but I think more and more shareholders are taking seriously the whole issue of executive pay. And in the case of Bob van Dijk, he does seem to be rewarded totally inappropriately for his responsibility.
The issue here is Tencent. So years ago, Naspers took on about a third of Tencent, which is now one of the biggest, if not the biggest, internet, media, gaming companies in China. So its profits are massive. But that's the distortion. They're saying without Tencent, all the other businesses wouldn't be looking that good. So do you agree with that assessment, that he's not doing well without the luck, some would say, in China?
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely was very, very good luck. I mean, and to give it to Koos Bekker, it's like, I think, with the golf player who said the more he practices, the luckier he gets. And so Koos does deserve a lot of credit for picking out the Tencent investment. But essentially, what's going on is that Bob van Dijk is being awarded Naspers shares as part of his remuneration package. Now, the value of Naspers shares lies, some people say more than 100% in Tencent. I mean, if you look at the breakdown of Naspers' performance, its traditional operations, which are DSTV and local media, and they haven't performed very well at all. In fact, they've gone quite badly backwards. So, I mean, one shareholder said that and the reality is Bob van Dijk has got nothing to do with running Tencent. That is entirely down to the Chinese management. So Naspers has no input there. Essentially, yeah.
Carry on, Anne.
So essentially, Bob van Dijk is being excessively well rewarded for the performance of the Chinese management.
Does this mean we're becoming more nuanced in looking at executive pay? So it's very complicated. Koos Bekker himself, I understand, originally said, pay me R1 a year, pay me nothing, give me shares and I will show you what I can do. That's much more complicated to deal with than somebody taking a strict package in cash terms, basically. So will this raise those issues, and maybe out of these debates we can come up with a model of fairness? Are we getting any closer to that?
We might be. Well, the institutional shareholders are becoming more exercised by it. But if you read the Naspers annual report, and I have to say, I think these annual reports are often, particularly the remuneration part of it, are designed to confuse people rather than enlighten them. And they talk about the need for good, appropriate remuneration policy to encourage entrepreneurial behavior, to encourage commitment, and that. If I was working for Naspers and I saw what Bob van Dijk was getting, I wouldn't be encouraged. If I wasn't working for Naspers but was thinking about it, I wouldn't be encouraged. He's just being. It's just so random, and it really is an extreme case of the randomness of the rewards that executives are getting. Hopefully. This is an extreme case. One shareholder actually suggested Bob van Dijk just stay at home and give him, shareholders give him a little, less money, give him some cash, no shares, but just stay at home. If you look at the breakdown, Tencent's trading profit was up 39%, and almost everything else in the group was down. So all the areas that Bob does have responsibility for underperformed.
Final bottom line, and do you think that this will result in a pay cut for Bob van Dijk?
But even his basic pay, the big thing he gets is the bonus, the long-term bonus. But even his basic pay is out of kilter. It's about $10 million. Now, if Bob wants to get that, he'll say, well, that's what he would get in the international market. I think it's time for South African shareholders to say, well, you must go to the international market because, this is offensive. I think his basic will probably stay as generous as it is, but, hopefully Koos will consider it. But what happens is people say, well, we've listened to the shareholders, we're going to consider their concerns, and then the same thing comes up next year.
All right, we'll follow that. Thank you so much for your analysis, financial journalist Allan Gray. The mining sector